Hello everyone and happy Friday. I am so happy that everyone's here and has made it to Friday. It's been a really long week. And yeah, we're here to talk about 15K and half marathon pace training staples, or a half marathon, 13.1 mile training staples. And first and foremost, I would like to say happy Friday and ask all of you, how are we doing? Good? Let me see some thumbs up. I see Rosie Runs and Gary here are regulars. For those of you that are new joining, welcome. I welcome you. I'm so happy you're here. Feel free to engage at any point in time. And yeah, just ask questions as we go. So, that being said, let's dive into, we've been on a progression. So from 5K to 10K to half marathon to marathon, what the training looks like under my coaching. If you look at 2 days ago, my video, I go in depth into how these training programs could benefit anyone beginning running for fat loss, running for stress relief, with more of an endurance-based background, as that is my biggest skill set. And yes, also with a lot of cross-training, because that is at the core of my coaching philosophy. So, half marathon training staples, I use the same training for a 15K because the two are so close in distance. Yes. So, I don't really give anyone, I want to say, there are a lot of training programs out there that actually don't even have an active recovery day. And I don't know how I feel about that, because I do believe that it's nice to give our body a nice break after any runs. But it's definitely also important to, have the proper amount of mileage. So now this is where this gets fun, because, depending on if you have already a solid aerobic base and, say you're taking it back from a marathon and you just have an end goal of PRing in a half marathon. This is what this is for. Any of my runners on here, I want to reiterate that if you're doing a half marathon as a tune-up race towards a larger goal of running a marathon, this plan might not be as applicable to you. Okay, so aspiring runners, any runner on here, training staples. So the longest run that I would say as a range for someone training for a half marathon, which I'd probably give 4 to 6 months regardless of the base, so you don't have to stress yourself out with time, would be 10 to 12 miles on your long run day. Reason being is, some people, it's a confidence thing. If you run a strong, tempo run where you're running maybe 7 or 8 miles of that sandwiched between 3 miles of warming up, 2 miles of recovery miles, or something, or the opposite, that could work really well for you. Now others, who might be going for time, might want to taper back on that long run and do a 10K as the large middle ground staple training run, because that is a precursor and a very good predictor for how you could do in a half marathon, just maybe by adding 15 seconds give or take, depending on your fitness level. Now, if this is your first half marathon, amazing. A really basic way to start any of these days, breaking them down, is to run walk. Okay, and you could always contact me with any inquiries, because everything I do is very customized and tailored to each individual's specific goals and needs. So that's the long run, 8 to 12 miles, or if you're really going for time and you do have some speed work in you already, doing a 10K tempo run, in lieu of that. definitely a tempo run as a second day. Okay. So that could be anywhere for a half. I would really strongly press the 6.2 halfway mile marker towards a half. That's a 10K, all the way up to 12 miles. Again, depending on what you're comfortable with, what your goals are. You know, if you're running just to finish it and you want to know that you could finish it, it's probably going to be really comforting to you to run those 12 miles. If you're running for time, 6.2 might be more beneficial because you don't want to kind of blow out your legs. You want them to be really fresh and all ready for race day. And yes, so that being said, a cross training day. What I mean by that is low impact, high intensity exercises. So cycling, boxing, spinning, cross training, circuit training, strength training could be under that cross training umbrella or separated into a secondary running day, which I'd highly recommend, a strength training day and a low impact, high intensity day, because one works different metabolic systems, it gets up your conditioning, it gets us runners strong in the planes of motion that we're not strong in when we run, which is rotating transverse and the frontal plane, side to side. So strength training for that reason too, to get our abductors, our adductors, so outer thighs, inner thighs, that glute medius, by working that frontal plane, and with both body weight and mixing up the repetitions. So if you don't have something heavy, you could work with like a higher volume, higher reps with lower amounts of time of rest to get more anaerobic endurance, muscular endurance. And for mere strength, like lifting really heavy, lifting low reps, but really heavy reps, and giving yourselves like 2 to 3 minutes between each of those sets. So that could be either 3 or 4 days right there. Okay, number 5, I would include just another easy run aerobic day. Easy runs, what I mean by that, and what I like when I say this in my posts, I mean a run or a jog where you could literally talk to someone or your imaginary friend, whatever works, next to you very easily without huffing and puffing. At a threshold pace, which I mentioned before, like that 6.2 threshold run, it's a hard effort, so you shouldn't really be able to speak a lot. You should be really working at around 85% of your max heart rate if we're going off of rate of perceived exertion or effort. For simplicity's sake, let's leave it at that. So yes, and then obviously an active recovery day, which I would recommend trying to include in every single day of the week, which consists of mobility, all of the mobility moves that I've showed you in my prior IGTV lives, foam rolling again, which I've also showed you, and just walking around. You know, active recovery does not mean being sedentary in your chair all day. Otherwise, does anyone have lower back issues, right? Does anyone have tight hips? These could all be things from excessive sitting, and just, you know, poor movement patterns, and we want to fix those by being able to move our muscles and our joints all the way that we can and that we're supposed to move. And so, you know, that's your staple for a half marathon training program. Now, what I love about a half is the way I trained for my first half is I really, really did a lot of cross training and also not such structured speed work. So more of a fart-like play, tampering with different speeds, some hill work, just because that really elicits a lot of speed and power, even though we're not doing hill sprints. It's good to do basically hill runs where you're working your aerobic threshold with the presence of oxygen, because you can't work speed and endurance at the same time. And what I mean by speed is when you're running like a 100-meter dash or a stride, and there is not oxygen present. So if you're fast to muscle fibers, if you're in track and field, you know what I'm talking about. If you're an ultra marathon runner, you might not know. If you're a beginner runner, now you know. So, I really just, wanted to touch upon these few staples because I find that they can be very valuable to you. I hope at least you might be able to discuss a thing or two with me, with someone in the running community, with, on here. Like I say, I always encourage questions. There's no stupid questions. And, there's many ways that those different staples could be manipulated to work for what's best for you. And that's where customization really comes into play. And now, this brings me back to my point. The way I work with my runners, I customize their programs to not what they want, but to what they need and what is going to help them get to their goals. I wouldn't say I am a teacher. As a coach, this is how I feel, and you guys could feel free to, chime in at all. But I feel that it's my job to help my clients and my runners find it within themselves, not to tell them the answer, to guide them there. And, like I always say, you steer the ship, I could be the captain, I could be the guide, but ultimately I give all of my runners and my non-runners, my fat loss clients, credit for their success because they deserve it, not because I just feel like saying that. They really deserve it. They put in the work. All of them kept running through COVID. Rosie Run, shout out. And yeah, it's just been, incredible. And, I always treat people like people first before a runner or before a dollar sign. It's a very big thing for me. And also, I never had that when I was kind of in need of guidance, when I was, getting into running. And I wanted to become that. So here I am, doing the best I can day by day for you guys. So, my team is expanding. This is really, really exciting stuff. I'm really excited to share with you more details in the upcoming weeks. And yes, if you have any questions, I know this was a short one, but I just really wanted to get to the point because I, kind of was under the weather yesterday and let you guys down. So I hope you appreciated this live, and I will see you again on Monday for marathon training staples. That's going to be a long one. So stay tuned for the time. It's going to be in the show notes. I hope you are all having a wonderful Friday, and I hope you have a great weekend planned ahead. Thank you for joining, guys. Mwah. Love you all.